woke with a gasp, heart hammering. 3:17 a.m. The digital clock glared red in the darkness. Again. This was the third time I'd woken up at this exact time, in this exact same sweat-soaked bed. The same unsettling stillness hung in the air, a heavy blanket of dread pressing down on me. Something felt off, not wrong exactly, but shifted, like a painting hung slightly askew. The first two times I dismissed it as a bad dream, the kind that clings to you even after you're awake. Swung my legs out of bed, the cold floor sending another shiver through me. The house was silent, too silent. Usually I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the old house settling. But tonight, nothing. It was as if the world outside my bedroom had ceased to exist. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, the screen illuminating my hand with an eerie blue light. No signal. That's when I heard it, a soft, rhythmic thudding coming from downstairs. Slow and deliberate, like footsteps. My breath hitched in my throat. I knew I shouldn't go downstairs. Every instinct screamed at me to stay put, lock the door, hide under the covers. But something compelled me forward. A morbid curiosity, maybe. Or perhaps a sliver of hope that if I faced whatever was down there, this nightmare would finally end. I crept towards the door, each step echoing unnaturally loud in the oppressive silence. I eased the door open, peering into the darkness. The thudding continued, closer now. My heart pounded against my ribs like a trapped bird. I took a tentative step into the hallway, the floorboards groaning beneath my weight. The air grew colder, a chilling draft snaking around my ankles. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. Something was definitely wrong, very wrong. The thudding stopped. The silence that followed was even more terrifying. It was a thick, suffocating silence, pregnant with anticipation. I strained my ears, listening for any sound, any clue as to what was lurking in the shadows. Then I saw it, a flicker of movement at the bottom of the stairs, a tall, shadowy figure, barely discernible in the darkness. My blood ran cold. The figure was holding something long and metallic. It glinted in the moonlight, reflecting a cold, sharp light. A knife. I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that this was not a dream. This was real, and I was in danger. The figure began to ascend the stairs, the thudding resuming, slow and deliberate. Each step brought it closer, the shadows clinging to it like a shroud. I could feel my panic rising, threatening to overwhelm me. I had to do something, anything. I turned and ran back into my room, slamming the door shut and fumbling for the lock. My hands trembled so violently I could barely get the key in. The thudding was right outside now, just on the other side of the door. I could hear the figure's ragged breathing, close, too close. The door burst open, splintering wood flying through the air. The figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the hallway light, knife raised. Its face was hidden in shadow, but I could feel its gaze, cold and malevolent, fixed on me. I knew in that moment that this was it. This was the end. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the inevitable. But the blow never came. Instead, I heard a strange, high-pitched whine, growing louder and louder, until it was deafening. I opened my eyes to see the room bathed in a blinding white light. Then everything went black. I woke with a gasp, heart hammering. 3:17 a.m. The digital clock glared red in the darkness. The same unsettling stillness hung in the air. But this time, something was different. There was a faint metallic smell in the room, the smell of blood. I looked down at my hands. They were covered in blood, my blood. There was a deep gash across my chest, still oozing crimson. I could feel the warmth spreading, staining the sheets. I was dying. The thudding started again, downstairs, slow and deliberate. I knew with a chilling certainty that I wouldn't escape this time. The loop had reset, but the damage remained. I was trapped, bleeding out, waiting for the inevitable. And then I heard a second set of footsteps, heavier, closer, coming from behind me. I turned my head just as a hand, covered in blood, clamped over my mouth, stifling my scream. It wasn't the figure's hand, it was my own. I woke up to "I Got You Babe" blaring from the clock radio again. February 2nd. Again. It's been happening for weeks now, this twisted Groundhog Day loop. At first, it was a novelty, reliving the same day, making different choices, seeing how things played out. But something shifted. A darkness crept in. This morning, there was a smear of blood on my bedroom wall, a rusty, metallic scent clinging to the air. I don't remember seeing that yesterday. Or was it today? Yesterday. I walked downstairs, the floorboards creaking underfoot, just like every other. Loop. The unease in my stomach grew with each step. The bloodstain, the metallic smell. It wasn't a dream. This time, something was truly different. The kitchen was exactly as I left it, dirty dishes piled in the sink, a half-eaten bowl of cereal on the counter. But there, next to the fruit bowl, was a single, severed finger. It looked fresh. The finger, it was mine. I recognized the chipped nail polish, the small scar near the knuckle. Panic clawed at my throat. I knew this loop was different, darker. This wasn't just reliving the same day. This was a descent into something horrifying. The air felt thick, heavy, like something was watching me. Waiting. I knew I had to figure this out, had to escape this loop before. Well, before I lost more than a finger. I decided to retrace my steps from the previous loop. I left the house, the familiar chill of February air hitting my face. It was eerily quiet, the streets deserted. As I walked, a sense of dread washed over me, a premonition of something terrible about to happen. The silence was broken only by the crunch of my footsteps on the frosted pavement. I felt exposed, vulnerable, like prey being stalked in the open. I reached the town square, the same spot where I usually grab a coffee. But today there was no coffee shop, no bustling crowd. Just an empty space, a gaping hole in the fabric of reality. And in the center of that void, a twisted, grotesque figure stood silhouetted against the gray sky. It was tall, impassably thin, with long, spindly limbs and a head that seemed too large for its body. It didn't move, just stood there, watching me. Terror froze me in place. The figure began to move, its limbs twitching and jerking in unnatural ways. It started towards me, gliding across the ground with an unnerving grace. I wanted to run, to scream, but my body wouldn't respond. I was trapped, paralyzed by fear as this thing closed the distance between us. Its face, if you could call it that, was a mask of writhing flesh, a grotesque parody of human features. It reached out with a long, skeletal hand, its fingers tipped with razor-sharp claws. I closed my eyes, bracing for the inevitable. I felt a searing pain in my side, a sharp, tearing sensation. Then, darkness. The last thing I heard was the creature's guttural growl, a sound that will forever haunt my nightmares. I woke up to "I Got You Babe" blaring from the clock radio. February 2nd. Again, the bloodstain on the wall was bigger, the metallic smell stronger. This time there were 2 severed fingers next to the fruit bowl. This wasn't a time loop, it was a torture chamber, and I was the only prisoner. I ran to the bathroom, desperate to escape, to break free from this horrific cycle. But as I looked in the mirror, I saw it. The reflection wasn't me. It was the creature, its grotesque face staring back at me, its eyes burning with malice. It smiled, a horrifying, toothy grin that stretched its flesh into a grotesque rictus. I screamed, a primal scream of pure terror, and then I woke up. February 2nd. The bloodstain was even larger, covering almost the entire wall. 3 fingers now lay beside the fruit bowl, arranged neatly in a row. The metallic smell was overpowering. The loop continues, each iteration more gruesome than the last. I lose more of myself, piece by piece. The creature grows stronger, its presence more pervasive. I'm trapped in a spiral of escalating horror, a macabre Groundhog Day from which there seems to be no escape. I see glimpses of the creature now, even when I'm awake, flickering at the edge of my vision, a shadow in the periphery. It's always there, watching, waiting. I can feel its presence, cold and malevolent, pressing in on me, suffocating me. Today there were 5 fingers, my entire hand. It lay on the counter, palm up, as if offering itself to the creature. I knew what I had to do. I had to stop the cycle, even if it meant. I grabbed the kitchen knife, the blade glinting in the dim light. I looked at my reflection in the blade, saw the creature's face superimposed over my own. It smiled, a knowing smile. I raised the knife. I woke up. No, I got you, babe. No bloodstain, no severed fingers, silence. I looked at my hand. Intact, I was free. But then, I heard it. A a faint, guttural growl from the closet, and a familiar, chilling whisper, "Happy Groundhog Day." I woke up to the chirping of birds, the same chirping I'd heard for what felt like an eternity. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. 8:00 a.m., the digital clock on my nightstand flashed. Again, I knew what was coming. This wasn't just déjà vu, it was a horrifying, inescapable loop. Every day, the same events unfolded, the same conversations, the same mundane routine. The first few loops, I tried to change things. Missed my bus, ordered a different coffee, confessed my feelings to Sarah, the barista with the kind eyes. But no matter how much I deviated, the reset always came. The flash of light, the jolt, and then 8:00 a.m. The same birds, the same dust, the same dread. It's like the universe is marking me, forcing me to relive this meaningless existence. The worst part, I can't remember how it started. Was there a life before this loop? I've started experimenting, small things at first. Skipping work, driving a different route, even petty theft. Nothing matters. The reset washes it all away. It's as if the universe is saying, go ahead, try to break free. It won't matter. This realization, this lack of consequence, started to twist something inside me. A seed of anger, slowly germinating into something darker. If nothing matters, what's stopping me from anything? I started pushing the boundaries. I told my boss exactly what I thought of him. I vandalized a billboard. The rush was intoxicating. The freedom of consequence-free action, a perverse liberation. But the reset still came. The slate wiped clean, ready for another performance of this twisted play. And each time, the rage grew. The frustration of being trapped, coupled with the fleeting power of my actions, fueled a burning resentment. The other day, I saw a stray cat, a beautiful ginger tabby. Seen it before in every loop. It always crosses the street at the same time, the same spot. This time, something snapped. The rage boiled over. I don't want to talk about what I did. The reset came, as always. But this time, the chirping birds sounded like mocking laughter. The cat was back, unharmed, unaware, as if nothing had happened. The reset not only trapped me, but everything around me. This realization was a new kind of torture. It wasn't just my actions that were meaningless, but existence itself felt like a cruel joke. The anger intensified, morphing into something cold and calculating. I needed to find a way out, a real escape. Not just from the loop, but from this, apathy. I started researching. Time loops, temporal anomalies, anything that could explain my predicament. Hours in libraries, online forums, anything to grasp at a straw of understanding. Most of it was nonsense, but I found one recurring theme, a point of origin, a trigger that started the loop. If I could find it, maybe I could stop it. I began meticulously retracing my steps. Every loop, I focused on a different detail, trying to isolate something, anything out of place. It was like trying to find a single grain of sand on a beach. Then, a breakthrough. A faded photograph in my apartment. Me, younger, standing in front of an antique shop. A shop I'd never seen before in the loop. The shop, I had to find it. I spent days searching, retracing routes I hadn't taken in what felt like years. And then, tucked away on a side street I'd never noticed, there it was. Dust-covered windows, a faded sign barely hanging on. Curios and oddities. A chill ran down my spine. This was it, the source. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of dust and something else, something metallic. The shopkeeper, an old woman with eyes like chips of ice, watched me with unnerving intensity. I felt a pull towards the back of the shop, an almost magnetic force, like something was calling to me. There it was, on a dusty shelf, tucked between a chipped porcelain doll and a tarnished silver locket. A small wooden box, intricately carved with a single brass button on top. A reset button. I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that this was the key. My hand trembled as I reached for the box. The old woman didn't speak, didn't even blink. Her gaze was unnerving, like she knew exactly what I was going to do. As my fingers brushed against the cool wood, I felt a surge of power, a sense of control I hadn't felt since before the loop. I pressed the button. There was no flash of light, no jolt, just a low hum, like a machine coming to life. The shop around me began to shimmer, the objects blurring, the old woman fading into a hazy silhouette. I closed my eyes, waiting for the familiar pull of the reset. When I opened my eyes, I was back in my bed, 8:00 a.m. The birds were chirping, the dust motes danced in the sunlight. Everything was exactly the same, but something was different. I felt it in my bones, a deep, unsettling calm. I got out of bed, went to the window, and looked down at the street. There she was, Sarah, the barista, walking her dog, a dog I'd never seen before, a dog that wasn't there yesterday, or was it the day before that? The reset had worked, but not in the way I expected. It hadn't broken the loop. It had given me control. And now I could reset anything.